thought I would sit down and read to you a little bit. I have a book here that I finished that I think that you might enjoy. It's called Dreadful Young Ladies. Dreadful Young Ladies. Got a nice butterfly here, but it's in the shape of a girl with her head right here and braid falling down with her wings. If you can see in the wings a little bit, they have there's a skull, a pirate ship, like how you steer with it, a compass, a flower and moon, a snail, a bee, some lace. I really liked this book. It's full of short stories. So you got a little bug right here. Kind of cute. It's by Kelly Barnhill. She's a novelist. So I think this is her first short story collection. I'll read you the summary here. When Miss Sorzen's husband dies, she rekindles a long dormant love with an unsuitable mate in Miss Sorzen's and the Sasquatch. In the open, the door, and the light pours through, a young man wrestles with grief and his sexuality in exchange of letters with his faraway beloved. Dreadful Young Ladies demonstrates the strength and power, known and unknown, of the imagination, and notes on the untimely death of Ronia Drake. A witch is haunted by deadly repercussions of a spell. The Insect and the Astronomer appends expectations about good and bad, knowledge and ignorance, love and longing. The World Fantasy Award-winning novella The Unlicensed Magician introduces the secret magical life of an invisible girl once left for dead, with thematic echoes of Kelly Barnhill's Newbery Medal-winning novel The Girl Who Drank the Mood. With bold, reality-bending invention underscored by richly illuminated themes of love, death, jealousy, and hope, the stories in Dreadful Young Ladies shows why its the authors has been hailed as a fantasist on the order of Neil Gaiman. This collection cements Barnhill's place as one of the wittiest, most vital and compelling voices in contemporary literature. It's pretty big praise. So I thought I would read to you the novella in here, The Unlicensed Magician. I liked it the best out of all of these. It reminds me of the stories I tell myself when I can't sleep. So I have a trick. When I can't sleep, I think about a fantasy story, and it's always the same story. It always starts off with this skirt of this long train grazing over grass and leaves in a woodsy area, and usually if I don't fall asleep by then, I come for the story about how this girl, she's in a dream, or she doesn't realize until it's too late that it's a nightmare, and she's being haunted by, I'm not sure what the creatures are called, but by these almost demon-esque people who feed off of nightmares. And then she wakes up. The story's a bit longer, but I usually fall asleep by then. And whenever I can't fall asleep, I just think about that story starting again, the dress trailing over leaves and grass, just hearing that swooshing sound. Swoosh, swoosh. And almost seeing a tiny scope of it being dragged back and forth over the grass. I know we all have things that help us get to sleep. My sister, she told me about this one where she thinks about how she's driving on this really quiet road. Nobody's there but you, and you're driving down. You just see the little flicks of the white stripes passing you, and the long strip on the side passing you. You just keep going and going for miles and miles. Just you and the road. And maybe there's a mountain on the side, or a lake on the left. And maybe you roll down your windows. Maybe you just drive silently. I know some people, they like to read before bed, including me. So I thought I would read to you. I also have this candle here. It is a woodwick candle, so it makes a little crackling noise. And it's lavender spa, so very relaxing. Perfect for going to bed. I'll light this here. There'll be a little crackling fire as we read tonight. I'll put this beside you to maybe hear it in the distance. Alright. Shall we get started? The Unlicensed Magician. One. Now. The fox sputters to life on schedule at 4 a.m. Even the chickens are asleep. Citizens, it shouts, rouse yourselves, throw off your bedclothes, prepare for a message from the minister himself. Today, beloved citizens, is a glorious one. Rub your eyes, clear your throats. The anthem is at hand. Every citizen has a vox. It's the law. Everyone knows the schedule by heart. Still, the jangly arrival of the announcer's voice is a jolt in the nationwide quiet. And the households across the country, traitors' pillows cover otherwise patriotic ears. In the darkness, thousands of children feel their inconstant eyes well up, mourning the loss of yet another night's rest. The junkman's daughter stares up at the scattered stars, the harsh glint of planets cutting to the black. The hay under her back is clumped and matted over the course of the night, and everything is damp. Her father, well, her foster father, is lying on top of a heap of gathered treasures, head below hips, arms splayed over cracked urns and dead radios, skinny legs hanging over the side and unlikely ankles. He snores, and even from where she lies a few yards off, she can smell the decaying drunkenness. Her eyes burn from the alcoholic cloud emmering from his mouth and off-gassing from his skin. He calls it whiskey, but it is not whiskey. It is a homemade alcohol that he brews in a boot and distills in a small batches like a cloak in a miniature coil that he designed himself. His daughter is amazed that he hasn't gone blind or blown his hands off. She knows that is something to do with the unintentional protection that she affords him sleeping by existing. What will happen to him if she is discovered? How long will he survive without her? Who will take care of him when she is gone? Not if. Her heart knows. When. The junk man groans. Did you say something, my sparrow? He slurs. No, Papa, she says. Go back to sleep. By the time she finishes the word Papa, he is already snoring. She still says it. Papa. Her voice is like a clasp of fingers curling around a living heart and holding on for dear life. He has been her Papa since she had opened her eyes for the second time 15 years ago. But will he even remember when she's gone? She doesn't even know. The anthem blares a long, plodding, minor key affair, like a funeral dirge. It is sung this time by two old men, their voices tired and sagging. Former generals, the girl knows without trying. And today is their last day. Being a general is a risky business, after all. Little failures are more likely to catch the minister's eyes. No one wants to catch the minister's eye. Not if he wants to keep his own head. The two men have a great sigh the moment the song ends. One begins to sob. Do you see, beloved citizens, how patriotism stirs the hearts of even the most half-hardened of men? Let us take a moment to wipe our flowing tears. Let us pause to blow our leaking noses. The box devolves into a chorus of fake sobbing. Someone makes a honking sound like a dying goose or a broken horn. The junk man's daughter sighs. She pulls to her feet and wraps what used to be a boiled wool blanket, but now is a little more than a scrap around her shoulders and tiptoes barefoot across the frost-kissed lawn to the window of the farmhouse. She shivers, but not from the cold. The inhabitants do not know that she spent the night on their lawn with her beyond drunk father. Even if they looked out the window, they would see him. They would see the cart. They would likely wouldn't see her. Hardly anyone could see the drunk man's daughter. Those who can do so, she can count on one hand. Others can see her from time to time, but without any regularity, and most don't like her much when they do. She's the junk man's daughter after all, tainted clearly by his drinking and shiftlessness. It is lonely, this invisibility. Of course it is lonely, but safe. Safe. But for how long? She finds herself wondering more and more lately, and for what purpose? Even now, having lived this way for 15 years, she still has no idea. She leans her chin on the still and rests her forehead against the glass. She can feel the vibrations of the Vox's voice buzzing in her skull. Beloved citizens, has there ever been so great a nation? The Vox chuckles at this very thought of it. Now gather close. We have items of business to discuss, for our dear minister comes to bring you his message of hope and peace. The farmhouse inhabitants have ignored the Vox and have kept their lights off and bedroom doors closed. Likely they have fashioned earplugs for this very purpose. They cannot be bought, of course. Earplugs are illegal. Ignoring the Vox is also illegal. This family, like many this far away from the capital, sometimes lives by its own rules. For now, anyway. The junk man's daughter finds this charming. The Vox drones on for a bit. New regulations for sale, homemade baked goods. New regulations for the admission of young children into obedience school. There is, the Vox assures the people, no place in great nation for disobedient toddlers. All children over 12 months of age must now report to obedience school. No exceptions. Starting today. New regulations for the sale of liquor. The punishment for unlicensed sales is no longer life in prison, but is now, as it should be, death. A righteous and glorious decision. All hail the minister. The farmhouse is warm and cozy. Hand-stitched crazy quilts draping over the sagging sofa, in rough-hewn chairs, a wide hand-planked wooden table with a bowl of field flowers in the center. There are 5 people who live in this house. 2 parents and 3 boys. The youngest, not quite 11, still attends obedience school. The older boy are 13 and 17. They both work on the farm. The junk man's daughter knows this very well. She has sat with them at their dinner table as they ate. She has listened at the foot of the boys' shared bed, and their mother took their turn snuggling in and reading them stories of ancient copies of illegal books. Books with numbers and diagrams, books with stories and histories, books with plants and microbes and far-off galaxies and slice-open stars. Old volumes, carefully rebound, remnants from another world. The family regards them as precious. She has peered over the mother's shoulder as she worked through the arithmetic of farming, weeping as the numbers didn't add up. She is laying on the floor while they made music in the living room with homemade instruments. They never see her. They have no idea. The oldest boy, Jonah, 17 years old and taller than his father, has taken to building contraband telescopes in the backyard. The junk man's daughter has stood near him as he peered into the sky in the darkest hours of night, her breath clouding before her face like ghosts. She has listened as he murmured to himself, rattling names that she had never heard of. She has peered over his shoulder. She has watched him fuss over his own charts. She has listened to his whispery voice. He has no conscious memory of her. And yet, he wears a locket around his neck. He doesn't know where it came from. He wears it anyway. She has watched him wrap his fingers around the locket and hang tight. She has felt how their breathing in and their breathing out become synchronized. And notice moments when he speaks into the darkness, a question always. There are moments when she almost answers back. For there is no Jonah this morning, no Isaac and no Benjamin. There's only the voice of the fox as it announces, excitement reaching a fever pitch. Can you turn that thing down, my sparrow? The junkman slurs, though she can tell he is still dreaming. No one can turn down the Vox, and dismantling them sets off an alarm. Whole families have disappeared following Vox infractions. I've already done it, Papa, she says. Sleep. And her voice, heavily laden in intention, does what she hopes it would do. The junkman sinks into unconsciousness. He will not rouse before noon. Here he is, citizens. The announcer nearly screeches. His voice is hoarse. He trembles and panics. The minister is here. All hail the minister. The junkman's daughter, the sparrow, the child that never lived, the gutter snipe, the tramp, the trash spawn, the dirty thief, the tart in training, and every other name that has been assigned to her in young life, presses her hand against the glass. The family may notice her fingerprints. She hopes they do. The box scrambles a bit, static scratching in the quiet world. The minister has no magic, of course. He's spent enough of his overly extended life in presence of magic. It interfaces with radio signals. His voice stutters and halts. It is far away. It is in a cloud. The girl holds her breath. Are you listening? The minister says through the Vox. His voice is tender, loving, stern, and underneath it all terribly, terribly afraid. The junkman daughter nods. The minister clears his throat. It has come to my attention, my beloved children, that... His voice trails off, clucks his tongue, and his bodiless voice seems to shake its head. Well, it seems so crazy to say it out loud. A bugle very far away plays the anthem. Its long, sad notes slide under the minister's voice. Have I not loved you, my children? Have I not cared for you? Have I not kept your bellies full, your wounds healed, and your home safe from harm? His voice, she can hear, is amplified not by the radio, but by magic. Whose magic? She has no idea. The last remnants from the depleted magic children dying now. They aren't dead already. The sparrow shivers thinking of them. Nonetheless, I have heard reports of oddness. Here and there, things that have no right to be happening. It is astonishing to me that there could be, somewhere in this nation, an unlicensed magician. Laughable, even. It is beyond ludicrous to believe that such a level of flagrant rule-breaking could exist here in the most blessed nation. The junkman's daughter gives a little thrill. She presses her lips lightly against the glass, gives it a kiss. The house shivers. And yet, the facts prove otherwise. An unlicensed magician now walks among us, but not for long, and if we can help it, you and me together. His voice trembles. He worries. He yearns. He fears. He is beside himself. The girl is moved with compassion. To you, my beloved citizens, I say this. Watch. Observe. Report. Even small things. I am relying on you. She loves the house. She loves the family. She loves the minister too. She is suffocating from so much love. Her very skin is stretched tight with it like a balloon about to burst. And to you, little magician, his breath rattles. There's a hiss in his voice. He is afraid. She can feel his fear in her very skin. Poor baby, she thinks. You have no name. I have a name, she thinks. My mother whispered to me before I was born, and then she forgot it. I'm the only one who knows my name. You have no place. You are lost. You are a lost lamb in a dark, cruel world. No, she thinks. It is you who is lost. But I'm coming. I am waiting for you. I will find you, my darling, the minister says. I will lead you to me, as a spider leads a fly. I will catch you. I will claim you. I will love you to bits, as I love you, the junkman's daughter thinks. As I love you, and love you, she says. She loves him so much. She loves everyone. It is dangerous, this love. She can't control it. It is ever so much bigger than she is, growing by the day. It is a river, an ocean, the sky. Her love crushes planets, shatters suns, and burns whole galaxies to cinder and to dust. And then, child, I will drain you. Yes, she thinks. You can try. Do you hear me? I will drain you dry. Try, she thinks. Trying, you will drown in it. You will drown and drown and drown. The first time, she knows it is true. 2. Then. The first appearance of the Boreal Comet and the subsequent appearance of the magic children occurred shortly after the minister first began his long and fruitful rule. No one can say how long ago, how very, very long ago this was. Only the minister knows, and he won't tell. The comet simply appeared one day in the eastern skies, fat and shining like a pendant on a neck on the horizon. Astonished astronomers clamored over one another, elbowing their colleagues out of the way in an effort to be the first one to name it. In the end, it was named in honor of the minister's father, a dear man who had met an unfortunate and untimely end a decade earlier in a tragic firing squad accident. All condolences to the minister. No one knew at the time, aside for the comic's mysterious and surprising appearance, the impact the object would have on them all. No one knew the whole world was about to change. First, it was the dreams, crowding thick and fast night after night into the slumbering skulls of the populace. No one mentioned it, but everyone knew. Every man, woman, and child was marked by pale faces and darkened eyes and mouths slack from dreaming. And oh, what dreams. And then shortly after the comet disappeared, the babies arrived, 102 of them in counties and all over the nation. Magic babies. They all had, to one curious birthmark curling out of their navels, a strange spiral that glowed in the dark. They are volatile, some of them liable to make doors explode or syringes vanish, or to catapult their mothers from one side of the room to the other. There were broken bones, cracked teeth, annoyed nurses. Other babies were more benign, liable to make their teddy bears sentient, so as to see the important work of an infant cuddling when their busy families could not. Or they made lullabies come gurgling out of the bed sheets and cradles. Some endowed their panicked fathers the new round breasts laden with milk, and others remarkably grew wings. The minister, thinking fast, sent his massive land ships, each one large enough to house and transport several battalions, gouging the earth as they went. In each town, swarms of soldiers poured, invading nurseries, bassinets, checking for the magic mark. The children were to be rounded up and sequestered for study. They could be dangerous, the minister explained. They could be sick, he went on, or contagious. He paid the families, of course, handsomely. They were in no position to argue. He had all the guns. So many things, the minister mused, could be accomplished with guns. How many more things might be accomplished with magic? And thus his experiments began. He used earplugs to keep the screams out. 3. Now. There are signs all over the marketplace. Unlicensed practices of magic are prohibited by law. Be a model citizen. Watch. Listen. Report. Failure to report is a failure to your country. Failure is not tolerated. The signs appeared the night before, sometime after midnight. No one knows who hung them. People in the marketplace are doing their best to not notice the signs. Their eyes slide from side to side. They talk about weather. They talk about their children's need for new shoes. They talk about their recent teeth extractions. Why would they mention the signs? They have done nothing wrong. They are not breaking the law. They say this over and over in the silence of their hearts until it feels true. The junk man does not have a stall and pays no tax to the mayor, never has. The mayor has never forced the issue. If he did, the junk man would simply sell elsewhere, and the populace would revolt. Then after both tarring and feathering him, because that's what happens to mayors who fail their constituents, they would find themselves a replacement. Maybe they would just report to the minister and have him disappeared quietly. These things happen. It's tricky work, being the mayor. Times being what they are. It snowed the day before. But now the winds have slowed and the skies are cleared and the day is fine and warm. The easing dampness of a world still soft, but readying itself for a freeze. The junk man's daughter eats an apple. She sits on the edge of the cart while the junk man stands off to the side, conferring with the matron in low, hushed tones. As you can see, the junk man says, pulling the apple out of the empty bowl, holding it with a flourish of his open palm. He tosses it without looking at his daughter, who plucks it from a high, clean arc and places it with the rest of the apples on her apron. Each apple came from the empty bowl. It's just a bowl. Lovely, yes. A couple chips, sure. But ceramic is good for quality. And you don't find that kind of glaze work nowadays. He reaches in. The bowl is empty. Grabs another apple. This one he bites. The skin is red and firm, and the flesh is creamy white. A burst of sweet apple smell hangs between the two of them. He grins. Delicious. Would you like one? The matron nods slowly, her eyes wide. Well, help yourself. She reaches in. The bowl is empty. Her finger finds an apple, this one golden in color. She bites. It tastes like honey. The junk man's daughter can tell just by looking at her face. The matron closes her eyes and her lips spread across the crushed apple in a smile. How much? The matron says with her mouth full. It takes 15 minutes to negotiate a price. The young man's daughter tries to tires of the conversation, returns her gaze to the marketplace. There is a toad on her lap, and 2 identical chickens, pecking the ground at her feet. The toad settles in the folds of her skirt. She caresses its head absently. The matron leaves the bowl balanced on her hip, pulling an apple after apple from its empty depths and shoving them into her pockets. The girl shakes her head. It was a mistake, that bowl. There are so many others. Her eyes slide back over the signs. She doesn't want anyone to get in trouble. She never has. The junk man waves, the patron disappears, and counts his earnings, dropping each coin into his purse with a pleasant jingle. Oh, my sparrow, my sparrow, my sparrow, he croons at his daughter. Oh, the cleverness of me. He enthuses, throwing his arms wide. He waddles and giggles and gives a little hiccup. You stole that line, the girl says, though it isn't exactly true. The junk man cannot read very well. Even if he could, he would never encounter such a turn of phrase in a book. In theory, only the books that the minister has approved exist anywhere in the country. The minister doesn't approve of much. Still, there's much that is suddenly available to the junk man. When his daughter is nearby, it would just pop into his head. Proverbs, quotes, even a song or two. in worlds and worlds of stories. He collects them the way he collects junk, which is to say, joyfully. His daughter gives him a snort. And anyway, you are not that clever, Papa. He gives her a bow and blows her a kiss, and nearly breaks her in two. It is a good life they have, the two of them. It will kill her to leave it behind. She knows a change is coming. She could feel it hover, just out of reach, as surely as a coming storm. The church pastor wanders over. His steps waved and slow, sweaty skin, hooded eyes, and a red, red nose. Ah, the junkman says, Reverend, do I have the perfect thing for you? He ambles into a square, all bony knees and elbows, his barbed wire and braided grass holding up a patched suit, and greets the half-drunk pastor with a foxy grin and a conspiratorial wink. With a wave, his hand reaches into one of his many pockets and produces a bottle that, as far as he can tell, will never run dry. The pastor licks his lips and stares with interest. Sparrow shakes her head and turns away. She cups her hand and ladles the toad onto the ground between the identical chickens, first giving the top of its head a quick kiss. The toad bellows indulgently, not for the kiss, but for the separation from the girl. He loves that girl, desperately. So do the chickens. She loves them back. She slides into the crowd. There are people who could see her today. Unusual. Though it's been happening more and more lately, and it's not always pleasant. An old man tips his hat and puckers his lips at her. Oh, come on now, gutter snipe. One kiss. She shakes his head and darts away. She bumps into an old woman with a basket full of muffins for sale. Humph, the woman says. Watch where you're going, little tramp. She picks up the muffins and brushes the grift off her fingers, checking this way and that to make sure no potential customer is noticed. Off with you now. Shoo. The woman doesn't notice that the number of muffins in the basket has inexplicably doubled. She will only realize something is wrong much later when she counts the earnings at the end of the day, find her purse nearly twice as full as it should be. She will have no explanation for it. She will not remember the girl. Sparrow tries to buy meat from the butcher with the coin she lifted from the junk man's purse. The butcher gives her a poisonous glare. Oh, he says, throwing his hands. You're paying me this time, are you? Well, maybe you should have a party. She presses her lips together. It says nothing. She has stolen from him before. She's surprised he knows. Sucking her lips between her teeth and biting down hard, she points a good-looking bit of salt and pork, which he wraps begrudgingly. I'm sorry, she wants to say, but she doesn't. He has a wound on his shoulder. It is wrapped. The wrappings are soaked with yellow fluid and red streaks seep across his skin. He is sweaty and shivering. Sparrow tilts her head to the left. Yellow, she thinks. Yellow, yellow, yellow. The red streaks start to shrink. Thank you, she says when he hands her the meat. She hands him the money. Thank you for everything. She slips back into the crowd and disappears. Well, the butcher thinks. She didn't disappear. Just suddenly wasn't able to see her with all the people. She was sucked into the crowd. Except that's not exactly what happened. She wasn't moving, and the crowd didn't suck her anywhere. She simply vanished. Wait, the butcher thinks. What am I saying? Who vanished? I haven't seen anyone all day. He shakes his head. He has no memory of the junk man's daughter. He stares at the coins in his hand, confusion clouding his face. And even more confusion. The wound on his shoulder began to itch. He's crazed with itching. He throws off the bandages and realizes his wound is gone, and his skin is whole. Nothing shows where the injury was. His skin is firm and smooth as a baby, and even stranger. On the spot where the wound was, a coin. big golden coin. Yellow, the butcher thinks. Yellow, yellow, yellow. The junkman's daughter watches his face. She hasn't moved. The butcher simply doesn't see her. She shrugs and continues on her way. She stops at the cheese market, the breadsmiths, and the beekeepers, buying enough to keep her father fed and whole. The marketplace is crowded today. It's harvest time. Everyone's yields are impressively high this year. The beekeeper's stall is crowded with jars, and she sells honeycombs by the barrel. The pigs are fatter, and the milk has twice the cream. Potatoes are as big as boulders. We'll all go away, unfortunately. The rest of the nation is in a food shortage. This province has been the only one oddly blessed with abundance, which means that soon it'll be gathered, crated, and shipped off. There's a frenzy of buying, people getting what they can afford before. Sparrow! The girl looks up to see Marla, the egg woman, all broad shoulders and wide hips, hardened biceps, tossing her neighbors out of the way as she hurries across the square. Marla has loved the sparrow for as long as she can remember, and the sparrow loves her back. Marla, the girl says with the beginnings of a smile, one that fades the moment she sees the look on Marla's face. Run, child. The eggwoman says, soldiers. The soldiers are back. She throws out her arms, blocking the girl from view, as though all they needed to keep the girl from harm was the formidable presence of her own body. My father. I'll see to him. The constable is distracting the soldiers. He won't let anything happen to you. None of us will. Run, now. The eggwoman turns and walks towards the soldiers, strong as a tank. She has a basket of homemade cheeses hooked in the crook of her arm. She has a basket of astonishingly fine eggs. Her battalions of most remarkable hens. Indeed, there are no hens quite like them, thanks to her little sparrow. She'll use them if she has to. The sparrow hesitates. She looks to the greengrocer and the cobbler. She looks to the berryman and the candlemaker. No one sees her. The soldiers stand on the far side of the square, their electronic eyes focused on the eggs in the basket. Whips up like no other, the eggwoman says loudly, thick as cream. They always cure acne, heal burns, mend shoes, seal cracks, and make meringues with that melt of the mouth. They can also, in a pinch, secure a lover for the night. Very powerful, these eggs. Not magic, though. Surely not. Sparrow calls for her father. She calls for the constable. She calls for the eggwoman. No one comes. She wobbles, she flicks, and she flies away. Later people will say they saw a flash of a patched apron catch a breeze, fly above the head of the ground. No, someone will counter. It wasn't an apron, it was feathers. Not feathers, someone else will say. Wings. Patchwork wings. Hogwash, a third will swear. It was a flock of sparrows. Sparrows and sparrows and sparrows. And then they were gone. 4. Then. The sparrow couldn't remember being born. She could remember, however, parts of her life within the watery womb of her mother. She could remember the sound of her mother's worry. She could remember the soothe of her father's voice, and then the bite of her father's rage, and the silence he left behind. She remembered the Boreal comet, though she could not see it. She remembered it like a flash in the dark, in the surge of something. Something coming up from under her like a wave. And then she was something else. Even then she knew. She knew her hands, her mouth, and her toes, and she knew her magic. She knew these things without the power of names. She heard the fear in her mother's voice at the mention of Boreal comet. But it wasn't the comet that made her like this. It wasn't the flash that changed her. It was the wave. The wave from underneath. The Boreal comet doesn't make. It draws. She knows it in her bones. And with that, think we'll stop for the night. Blow out my candle here. Look at the wax building up. Thank you for joining me. I hope you sleep well.